Welcome to Complete Edition, the podcast between a PlayStation Trophy Hunter and an Xbox Achievement Hunter. This is episode 42. I'm your host, Compulsive Nerd, and I'm joined by AJ. How you doing, AJ?
I'm doing well. I've been having a pretty good week, feeling pretty good. I will say, I don't know, things have been so busy and I don't know if turbulent is the right term. Everything's going well, but I've definitely felt kind of stressed and a bit overwhelmed recently. So I'm hoping to take a break over the next few days, which will be quite nice to kind of reset. But I'm also getting much more excited about gaming. Like, I've not played too much recently, but in September when Starfield and Payday 3 come out, I'm hoping to play an absolute ton of both of those. So
yeah, I totally understand. Like, I don't know what happened to me. It was like in the past 2 weeks, but I mean, I'm looking ahead at the gaming schedule and I'm like, oh, this is what I want to play and this is coming out. And so I'm like trying to hit these deadlines and I'm not trying to rush through games. I actually am trying to rush through one right now, but I'm not trying to over rush myself. But the thing is, in 4 days, Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk comes out and I'm going to be on that. I'm day one. Well, not day one. I'm waiting to see if it's bug free, but then I'll be on there day one if it's bug free, because they lost our trust. But it's coming. This gaming season is awesome, and we've been kind of a little bit on pause because you and I both have been busy. But it's gaming didn't stop, man. It was hype the entire time. Games are coming out and they're really good right now, so it's really exciting. And I don't know if I'll play Starfield, but I'm looking forward to trying it out.
yeah, I picked up the Starfield controller. I'm hoping I can just get
nice.
super into it. I don't know if you've seen the Starfield Xbox controller. I really love how it looks.
It's very nice.
Yeah, I love that design. I love the art direction of that game based on what's been shown so far already as well. So yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, it's been tough, I guess, for me. I think because I'm so much more busy, I don't really know what it is, but it's been there's a few games. I'll talk about it when we talk about what we've been playing, but I think the games I've been playing are kind of mid or kind of don't really demand much of your attention or immerse you particularly well, except for one. I think there's an exception, but it's been quite difficult to be able to switch my brain off, I guess, and be able to reset from work or my anxieties and worries and get sucked into a game. You know, when if half of your brain is somewhere else while you're playing, you just don't have fun, or at least I don't have fun at that point. It's similar when you read a book or watch a film or something. You need to be fully invested in it mentally, or mostly invested in it mentally.
Yeah.
And the best feeling is when you play a game and the time just disappears, right? You blink and it's 6 hours later. That feels amazing. It's so good.
It is
to be so sucked in. And there's kind of a sliding scale where there's some games you play, either the fault of the game or how you're feeling, and you play for 30 minutes and it feels 4 hours and you're what the hell? What am I doing here? So I think it's been difficult for me on that level to get super into anything in terms of games. And I noticed that I've been playing more co-op and competitive stuff, because I think co-op, you're talking with other people, and that's part of it is the social component. And then competitive multiplayer, you sort of have to be focused. It kind of forces you to be focused and really, I don't know, but I play a lot of Counter-Strike, and you just you have to be properly on it all the time while you're playing. And I think being forced to do that, it helps in some sense. But yeah, other than that, it's been quite tricky for me to get crazy invested in games. But I still love games, and I still think about games, and I still read everything to do with games and follow games. Nothing's changed, I think, in terms of that. It's just that I think maybe there's more that I seek out of life now. I don't know. I don't really know how to come to terms with it. I still am, I think. I mean, it could just be like an extended session of like being burned out as well, but I don't really think so. I think it's more I'm struggling to. It's almost like games aren't active enough. Like if you go for like a run, or if you go cycling, or I don't know, like if you even if you like go to the cinema or something, like it it puts you like physically like in a place, or it gives you like a physical activity in some sense that like you then can more easily like devote all of yourself to it.
Yeah.
Whereas with kind of casually doing stuff at home, like with games and films there and TV, it's I think more difficult. Like I think there's more of a barrier to it. Weirdly, like psychologically more of a barrier to it rather than like a physical barrier. Like it's a lot easier physically. But yeah, so that's kind of how I've been feeling at the moment.
It's very interesting that you're going through that, because I'm going through the same thing. And I think that you might be further along in the process of like processing it. Cause like for me, I'll sit down and I play games, and like my brain goes to places I don't want it to. And I'm sitting there like, I'm like, I just want to play this game and like focus on this game. Like, can you please, brain, focus on the game that I'm playing? Like, all I want to do is be immersed in this and like do that thing where, like you said, where it's like 6 hours disappear and it's awesome. But like, I've been trying to like force myself to do it, because part of me feels like I'm losing a part of myself without video games. Like, it's been such a large portion of my life, and like it's something that I deeply truly love. And if I don't love it anymore, like what is it then? And so like I don't think that it's that I don't love it. I really do. It's just that I have a lot going on, and I'm trying to figure out how to like just escape from, again, like the stresses and like the, like you said, when you bring home work and like things like that, and it's just like you sit down and your brain's elsewhere, and I don't want it to be elsewhere. I do want it to be with the games that I love. And so it took me a while, and I actually am getting back into it. It's like a slow process, but like I'll talk about the games I have, but there's not very many. For the 3 month hiatus that we were on, pretty much is like I didn't play more than like 6 games. So it was like a very slow burn, like trying to like stay on top of things. And I'm just like kind of, I'm getting back into it. And like, I'm going to spoil a little bit about what I'm going to talk about, but I'm very close to the end of Final Fantasy 16. And I mean the second time. So it's my platinum playthrough. Like as soon as I finish the credits, it will pop the platinum. And I'm right there. And then I'm headed on to the next thing, because again, there's 4 days until Phantom Liberty. So I'm like, I am focused and I'm like on it, but then school starts next Monday. So it'll be back in that grind of like, I come home, I study, I make dinner, and then maybe I come back and play games until I go to bed. But at that time, it's like, man, I studied all this stuff and I know tomorrow I have a test, and it's just like, boom. All of a sudden I'm thinking about tomorrow and like what I have to be doing rather than playing the games that I want to be playing. So it's very difficult to like get that kind of focus that you're talking about. So I understand where you're coming from with like the idea that like you sit there and your brain's somewhere else. And so it's been nice with my second playthrough of Final Fantasy, because like I don't have to pay attention. I can just grind it and listen to a podcast and like get my brain somewhere else that way. Or I can listen to music, or I can like do something. So that's like a little bit of a grindy one too, but I'm also on the same page as you. And actually something I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but like I'm taking a turn, and I think I might play some more like competitive games to spend time with my friends, and like co-op games, because I'm missing that aspect of my life right now, because I'm so entrenched in everything I'm doing. So like I want that aspect to come back. And I love single player games. I'm never going to stop playing them. Like I really do love video games too. Like it's a core part of me. So I'm going to continue to play video games for the rest of my life. But it's just like I'm in a little bit of a rough patch, and I just have to. And it's weird because again, I'm talking about 2023 is an awesome year for video games. Like it's been really fun. And just like you said, I'm like absorbing this stuff. I'm listening to spoiler casts, and like I'm listening to people enjoy the video games of this year, and like I'm around the zeitgeist, and you know, the rumors with Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and like the devs trash talking each other, and like the drama around it. It's like I'm totally here for it. Like I think it's fun to like, you know, be entrenched in this industry. And so, you know, I'm just like in a very weird place, but I feel like I'm coming out of it. Like I'm getting back into games again. And I think that maybe it's because it was summertime and I was out doing a lot more things. And like, you know, like I'm going to a baseball game tonight, so I won't be playing games. It'll just be like another one of those nights, and then I got to go to work tomorrow, and so then the cycle continues where it's like game time is minimalized, and I like am trying to find a way to fit it into my schedule, you know?
Yeah, so I noticed for me, like the last time, I think it was the last time we recorded, I got so into I'd played Callisto and then SpongeBob and then Dead Space remake and then Inscription like back to back to back, and it was incredible. Like especially Dead Space and Inscription. So I think I feel like when I play something that's truly incredible or that I'm like very very much into, I think that will be enough. I just think that right now, and maybe it will stay this way, maybe it will change. And I'm not really putting pressure on myself again. Like you described it as a rough patch, but I try not to kind of see it that way. Just because I feel like like I never want there to be this pressure, especially with something that's meant to be like entertainment and something you do in your free time for pleasure and relaxation. That I kind of don't want to have like almost. I know you didn't mean it in this way, but I don't want to feel this pressure of almost like a sort of having like a toxic kind of relationship with gaming, I guess, in terms of like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that. I think that can happen with me with like deadlines and stuff like, oh, I need to finish this game by this point or that kind of thing. Or I need to make, so, sometimes I make videos, video guides, and there's that pressure. And that can, I want to kind of avoid that as much as possible, I think.
Yeah. And I think that
feelings.
I think that that's valid. Like kind of what I was explaining and like that kind of toxic relationship, I think is valid to see it that way. But for me, what happened was like, in a way, I'm kind of forcing myself to play games, right? This is kind of like, because I want to get back in the groove of it. And I realized, even though I'm forcing myself to do it, I had these conversations with some friends of mine that I just recently met within like the past 2 months. And I realized how passionate I got again about talking about the games that I'm playing. And I'm like, even though maybe I don't feel it, this could be depression, this could be all kinds of like outside factors. But it's like, even though I don't feel like I'm enjoying it, it's like when I start to like roll about what I was doing and like I start to get really like happy and passionate. And I'm like, oh, maybe I am enjoying this game, but it's just like my body is not feeling it. It's a very strange feeling. And like this is something I'm working through with video games. So it's like it's not exactly toxic that I'm trying to. It comes off that way definitely, but it's like because I'm forcing myself to play them. But it's like I am still happy with them, and like I'm so excited about this year of games, man. I loved Final Fantasy 16. I was in love with that game. And I played, Resident Evil 4 earlier this year. That was like one of the last games that we talked about on the last show. And I played Dead Space before that. And you know what I just started? Callisto Protocol. I just wanted to compare it to Dead Space. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to start it. But that's like, it's been weird with that game because like I can't get into it, man. I don't know what it is. And like what I actually think I'm gonna do is restart it and I'm gonna like play with a guide. I think that like just collectibles and like seeing the game is more important to me than like trying to do it naturally and all that stuff.
Maka has a really good guide for that. It's like a complete walkthrough, I think, pretty much. So
yeah, and they added so many trophies post launch, dude. Holy crap! I think there's like 8 or 9 DLC like expansions that are just like trophies.
And yeah, we talked about it before. You don't want to do some of the update trophy stuff.
No, I mean
maybe you'll love the game and you will, but it takes like a lot of additional playthroughs, and the game isn't kind of good enough to warrant it, in my opinion.
I'm with that opinion, even though I've only played for like 2 hours. That's why I want to restart. It's like, dude, I would rather just like try to knock out some trophies and like have fun with this game rather than like, because like the presentation and the story and everything like that are great, but then when I'm playing it, I'm like, God dang, this is a boring ass game. I wish that things came faster.
I think it's funny. Something funny about that game is that your character's really slow, and the game doesn't really justify. Like he moves kind of similarly to Isaac in Dead Space, but in Dead Space he's got like this like big power rig on, and towards the start of Callisto, you're just like a guy, right? Like why is he so? I don't know. It feels like he's a bit more like sluggish than he should be. I don't know, but except for the dodging, but the dodging is like it's a bit clunky in the sense that like it looks very fluid animation wise, but it's very much like you are either in like a non-dodge state and then in a dodge state. Like it's very binary, and it kind of feels a bit clunky to me in that sense. Like you don't have like when you dodge, you don't have like free like any free movement, right? Like it's like you go from like one animation state to another animation state, and you're just like locked into it basically. Like yeah, but no, that game's okay. I thought it was pretty good overall, I guess. But I'm quite conflicted on it. But yeah, restarting it's maybe good. I'm not surprised it didn't like grab you. I'd say that because it's quite short and it does vary things up relatively quickly. I think the start's probably the slowest part of the game, so I think there's a chance it does grab you because it only has to grab you for like a little bit, right? You don't have to play it for like 40 hours. You can just play it for like 6 and you'll be done with the game pretty much. So yeah, it's not too bad. It's probably pretty good, but I'm not surprised it hasn't fully sucked you in.
But there's other games that have, because like Oxenfree 2 just came out, and that game like from beginning to end had me sucked in, and I replayed it 2 more times to get the platinum, and honestly, dude, that was a little bit of a grind, and like one of those things where it's like, man, I was just ready to be done. There's like games where, again, this is something that we've talked about before, but it's like, man, I just can't do these, like waste my time doing that stuff anymore. Not unless I have like a podcast to listen to or something like that, which I did actually. I remote played the game while I was on the go, and so I just let the conversations go while I did other things, and then I came back to it, continued the story, let it play for a little bit, did things, and like just very much a background type of thing. But it was still like that game. The first time I played through it, like it's gonna stick with me for a very long time. Like it was very good. I think I like it more than the first one, but like that's the game that actually got me rolling back in, because I finished Jedi Survivor, and that took me straight up like 2 months to finish. I just was so slow with it. I'm like chipping away, and my friend's like, "You're still not," my best friend was letting me borrow it, and he's like, "You're still not done with it? Like how? It's been 2 months. Like it's not that long. It's like 40, 50 hours." And so I was like, yeah, I don't know, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like it was awesome, and it like made me want to get back into Star Wars, which is like a good thing, but also a bad thing, because I know that they're not, like, the IP is just kind of trash, but the game was good enough to where it's like, man, that was better than the entire like new trilogy, and I'm so excited that like Star Wars actually is that good. That makes me excited for more Star Wars games, because now the IP is being like dished out to different studios. But like it was very, very fun, and so then I went to Oxenfree 2, and then I finished that, and I was like, just all I did all the time was Final Fantasy 16, and that was a hell of an experience. Like that was really good, even though that game I was struggling a lot with like staying immersed. But yeah, I totally it's crazy that we're like on that same page right now, with life, where it's just hard to keep our brain focused on what we're doing. Do you think that you're going to take a hiatus from games? Like maybe a big break?
I mean, I kind of have, in a sense. Like the last game on Xbox that I played on the 18th of June. So, it kind of has been. But I've been playing Counter-Strike pretty regularly, and I've been playing Don't Starve Together.
Oh, nice. I still want to play that
as well. Yeah, I've been enjoying it. I think I've probably racked up like maybe 30, 40 hours in it now.
Wow.
I've been playing a lot of Counter-Strike, a lot of Don't Starve Together. It's been really good to play CSGO with a friend, like reconnecting over it. It's been funny to like joke around, and neither of us take it that seriously, because we kind of played it. The most seriously we played it was in 2015, where we'd play kind of like every day or like every weekend, and we'd rise up the ranks and we'd get like really high, like, and we'd learn like smokes and like tactics, and it wouldn't just be about going around, shooting the other guys, that kind of thing. But now we're like, I don't know, washed up, we're busier, we kind of don't give a fuck. It's kind of nice to go down the ranks and like just play really casually and just, like be in a voice call and like make fun of teammates or enemy players or whatever, just or whenever we make dumb plays, make fun of ourselves, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've also been playing Don't Starve together. It's been really good, the co-op experience. Like, it's nice talking shit. It's nice sucking at a game as well. I still don't really read the wiki or like watch guides until I have like no idea what I'm doing at all. Person who I play with, she's so much more experienced with the game, and it's nice to be like, I think it's easy for us perhaps because we're so into games to kind of obsess over them and kind of try to min-max everything and try to like get absolutely like every last piece of like juice out of a game, like, and I think that can be a bit off-putting when you're playing with someone who's a bit more casual, because you don't want to like race ahead of the person, or you don't want to have like completely different attitudes towards the game, I think. So it's nice to kind of be like the noob, I guess, like to just be like the dumbass and just be like an idiot and not really know what I'm doing. So that's been fun. We discovered recently that you can get caves in the game and go like underground. And for weeks, we've been trying to look for where the opening to these caves are. And I've scoured so much of the map looking for it. And then I realized when I generated the world, all caves are like off and not generated. You have to select it in like a menu. And when I first made the world, I wasn't sure what it was. And it was like, warning, like if you generate caves, your computer needs to generate multiple worlds at a time. And I was like, oh, so I didn't do that initially. So yeah, I felt pretty stupid in terms of that. So we've generated a new world. No, sorry, I've gone back and added caves to the current world. So that should be fun next time we play that. But yeah, those have been really good. In terms of what else I've been playing, if I can go into that, I feel like
Yeah, go right ahead, dude. We're flowing. Yeah.
I've been playing a ton of chess. I don't know if last time I'd got to 1,000 rating or not, but I'm well over it now. I actually got to 1,100 rating, and then I've like got above it and then lost it, and then got above it and then lost it, and then got above it and then lost it, basically. So I'm right below it again now. It's getting really difficult because everyone you play against now knows what they're doing, and everyone you play against has dedicated a lot of hours to chess at this point. So there's like, there's some easy games where people make a mistake early, but for the most part, like you're playing against serious chess players at this point. People who have played for, I mean, most people at this level have probably played for years, whereas I've played for 8 months, I guess. But like I've played very actively for 8 months. Like I wish there was a way to know how many hours I'd put in, but I've played it very consistently. Like played at least one game every week since December. So like since Christmas, basically. So, and usually more than one a week, like usually about like 10, 20 games a week at least. So yeah, it's very competitive. It's very fun. I still play it quite casually at this point in terms of like my rating. Like I think it's best. And from listening to like grandmasters and like people who play chess on YouTube and Twitch and tutor people, a lot of what they say is like, do puzzles to study tactics, but then also just play a lot. Like just play and then make mistakes and then learn from the mistakes, and play against people with different styles, play against people with lots of different openings, learn an opening really thoroughly, that kind of thing. And just kind of play and analyze the games after you play. And that's helpful for me, and that's kind of the attitude I take. Like I don't make each game like a big event, like, oh, I've got to win, and I've got to be in the right, mentality, and I've got to, drink my Red Bull or something. Like I've got to, like, there's no, I've got to, like,
you got to be a sweaty gamer, dude.
Yeah, I've got to get my stimulants and all that. Yeah, no, there's, it's like, sometimes I'll wake up and be groggy and I'll play chess and it's fine. And sometimes it'll be late at night and I'm really sleepy and I'll play chess and it's fine. Sometimes I'll be busy at work and I'll play chess and have to resign the game like 15 moves in, but it's fine. So yeah, I'm not like super focused or worried about rating. It's just nice seeing it like go up, and it's kind of been fluctuating up and down a bit, but I know that eventually I'll get good enough that people at this level like I'll be so eventually I'll get consistent enough where like it shouldn't matter too much that there's this like variance in my mentality, or like, not mentality, but I don't know, like alertness, or like mentally being, I don't know, fully super committed, like in
would you call it like
form.
focus?
Yeah, like I
your
think
focus is not there.
Although I think every time I play, I'm somewhat focused, but I don't know. Like I think eventually I'll get consistent enough that it kind of won't matter at this rating. Like at this rating level, there's still like everyone's still making mistakes. It's just the mistakes are more subtle. Is typically the thing. Like there's less blunders, and it's more like, oh, you shouldn't have like pushed a pawn at this time because it creates a vulnerability in like 3 moves time or something. Like it's that those kinds of mistakes typically can cost you games, but I mean, not even that subtle. I don't know, somewhere between that and a blunder, I guess, typically. And it depends on how complicated the position is as well. If both of you make the position very, very complicated, you kind of both start playing like idiots. Like when you analyze it with a computer afterwards, like your accuracy goes, like if you play very like safe and very controlled and your opponent does, I'll have games where I get like a 92% accuracy rating and they get like a 90% accuracy, or like I get like 88 and they get 90. And, it doesn't mean we're both like god tier chess players. It just means that the position is kind of so simple that it plays itself in many ways. And you can get the opposite of that, where like the position is so like complicated and fucked up that you both have like a 30% accuracy, and the computer's like every single move you make, the computer's like question marks, like, what are you doing? So it's fun seeing that in chess as well. Really enjoying that. I also have, so I didn't know where to mention this. It's definitely not a video game, but I've been learning to drive. So that's been good.
Whoa.
Been enjoying that. I know it's not, so what's weird, I don't know if weird's the right term, but an observation is that in the US, most people drive automatic transmission, as far as I know.
Yes.
Whereas in the UK, almost everyone drives manual. So I've been learning in a manual car. It's definitely more difficult than automatic because you can stall the engine quite easily, and you have to worry about changing gears, and you have to worry about your rev counter and all of that type of thing. You have to have very smooth clutch control and know where the biting point is, and it can be awkward to start on hills and stuff like that. There's some added complexity to driving manual, but I've been really enjoying it. I'm going to do my theory, or I'm going to make an attempt at my theory test in a few weeks' time, and then hopefully book my practical test by probably just after Christmas, and then hopefully I can drive. That would be good. But I'm kind of at a level where I can go on all of the roads, and I can do junctions and roundabouts, and do hill starts. I can do parallel parking. I can do bay parking, all of that type of stuff. I'd say I can probably drive, so my lessons are 2 hours long. I can probably drive uninterrupted for 20 to 30 minutes without making a mistake. And by a mistake, I don't know, like a mistake that would probably mean you fail the test, but not a mistake that's
life-threatening or
yeah, not oh, I went into the oncoming lane at 70 miles an hour. Nothing like that. Just oh, you took that turn in third gear when you should have been in second gear or something, or you rolled back very slightly, or you sort of nudged the curb with the wheel when you were trying to park, that kind of thing, I guess. or like I drifted a little while focused on something else, or I went up the gears too slowly, or I didn't notice the speed limit had increased or something, or in the wrong lane at like a roundabout, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, nothing that would be like if you were driving on the road, you'd not like cause a crash or anything, but it's like not the best driving. In fact, it's pretty bad driving, I guess. But so I can go like 20-30 minutes without making a mistake like that. The driving test in the UK is typically like 40 to 50 minutes, I believe. And I still have difficulty at the more challenging sections. But yeah, it's stuff like on my recent lesson, my instructor wanted me to turn into like a car park, but it was like the car park you turn in on, it's like on this main road, and the main road was also going down a hill. So I was like conscious of, I was like, I don't want to stop before the turning because then that slows down traffic. Like you want to take the turn smoothly while still going, because you're turning off the main road. But I kind of misjudged it. Like I slowed down, I went down from third gear to second gear, but because I was on a steep hill, it meant that I was going, like I'd almost, in my brain, I was like doing it as though I was on like a flat road. So I ended up taking the turn at like 16 miles an hour ish, which again, it's like, it's not terrible, but I'm not good enough at the steering and the angle and that speed to like have that be really smooth. So, you know, like I make mistakes like that essentially sometimes where I'd need to, like there, what I should have done is slow down even more, gone down to first gear instead, and then taken the turn at maybe like 10 miles an hour or like 8 miles an hour or something. So I don't know, like it's stuff like that. It's just kind of getting used to using the judgment a bit better and understanding the terrain and the conditions and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's going quite well. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. I feel like I'm gaining in confidence every lesson as well, which is nice. And yeah, it's cool to drive manual. I think there's something very like, I don't know if textural is the right word, but like there's something cool about having like a gear stick and just being like,
yeah, dude, you're probably becoming a better driver than I am, and I have been driving for 10 years. I do not know how to drive manual. And the thing is, like, it's so much more engaging to drive a manual because you have to focus on a lot of different moving components while you're driving. And I think that people who drive automatic get distracted because there's nothing to focus on. Like you are, like you just press the pedal and it goes, and you press the brake and it stops. Like that's it. Like,
yeah, something that was surprising to me in my very first lesson was that I think it's because the car I'm in automatically provides some gas when you're in gear, but the clutch on its own will move the car. Like if you press the clutch down, get into first gear, and then find the biting point, which is where, so like you press the clutch all the way down to put it into gear, and then you sort of bring like your foot like halfway up, the clutch halfway up, and then you start moving at that point. And I was like, I was kind of taken aback at first because I was like surprised the car goes on its own without you pressing the accelerator at all.
Yeah.
So, and then you have to like, when you get to that, like that biting point, you have to then like slowly come off the clutch as well. So you like press it down really quickly to then change gear. Like you just slam it down and then change gear. But then when you come off it, you have to come off it really smoothly. Otherwise the car goes all like juddery or like you might stall. And also you have to like, if you're on like a hill, so hill starts are like, they're tough because you have to find the biting point and then you like come off the brake and hit the accelerator. And then afterwards, like you have to give it some revs and then you have to come off the clutch. Otherwise, because if you try to get like the car moving up the hill on the clutch alone, which you can do on like flat ground, try to do it when it's on a hill, it will just stall. It just like won't, or you just won't go basically. So you have to like, you have to do this sequence of like being, you know, it's like this is cringe, but it, you know, it's like IRL, like quick time event, you know, like you have to like, dude. You have to like come off the brake, give it revs, and then like very, very smoothly come off the clutch. And you have to do that very, very quickly. And eventually, like the first time I was doing it, and I still find it tricky, but the first couple of times I was doing it, I had to be so focused on it, and it's really difficult when you're focused on like what you're doing with your feet and your arming gear, because you also have to make observations, obviously, like, you know, is there a child about to run in front of the car, that kind of thing. Like you have to check your mirrors and your blind spots and know you're like safe to set off. So the first time it was really tough because you're so like, you have to be so focused on the like actions that you're doing and the observations that it's tough. But eventually you build this muscle memory where like you can basically just focus on the observations, and like your legs and your hands will just do everything automatically, essentially. Like you just do it like you're walking or riding a bike or something. Yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoy it. And yeah, I think that's given me, you know, I mentioned earlier that like that's something where you can really like in comparison to, I don't know, video games or TV, it's like that's something where it's very easy to immerse yourself. Partly because you're like, given I'm just learning to drive, I'm like terrified half the time that I'm getting more confident now, but you know, you're just like, oh shit. Like a lot of the time as well, I get taken to roads that I'm unfamiliar with, and you just have like these blind corners or blind like junctions where you have to like creep out slowly, or like you're on a hill and you just can't see shit, and there's just like parked cars on like either side of the road. I had this area where like it was really like bendy and the roads were really twisty, and then also there's like this, I don't know, like ancient looking wall that just like judders out into the road, and you're like, what the fuck? Like this is a nightmare, but it's fun. It's exciting. Yeah, so that's been good. In terms of chronology of what I've been playing, I guess I feel like I wanted to put more emphasis on all the stuff I just mentioned, because I feel like with that I'm really passionate about it, and I think that comes across in how I'm talking about it. Whereas the other stuff I've been playing on Xbox is like my typical, I guess, gaming on console and getting achievements. Like it's been much less exciting and interesting to me. So I kept playing Ghostwire Tokyo. It's okay, it's fine. I mean, it's kind of like the worst type of game if you are having trouble and you want to be fully immersed, because that game is like the perfect, like, you don't have to focus game. Like that's a game where you can have a podcast or do something else in the background while playing. And it's not terrible. I think I said it was pretty mid before. I stand by that. I don't think there's much wrong with it. Like it's fine. I think maybe some of the disappointment is that The Evil Within and Hi-Fi Rush are so much more compelling and so much more vibrant and interesting. And I think there's still like soul in Ghostwire Tokyo. I don't think it's like completely devoid of character or things to like about it. I think there's a lot to like about it, and I think it's quite like it's very, very competent, and there's not a lot like wrong with it. I just think maybe there's too much game there. I think it's a bit too repetitive. It's a bit too checklisty, but it's fine. Like it's pretty inoffensive. It has charm, but it's come at like the worst time, I think, because of how I feel like I need to be immersed and I need to have some level of focus. Afterwards, I started playing The Surge. The Surge 2, I love. I think it's really underrated. I think it's a fantastic game. I got the completion in that game. There was a really great walkthrough for like all the items and everything. It was super informative. I think it's from a YouTuber called Blue Lizard Jello. So yeah, recommend his stuff on The Surge. I've been watching it while playing for the first game because he has a series on that as well. But the first game isn't anywhere near as good. It's weird because the first game and the second game are so similar. Like, I don't know, visually, mechanically. The second game is like just the first game, but like very slightly tweaked. And the encounter design is very slightly different. But it really shows how sometimes when you make like really small tweaks to a game, you can send it from like a 5 or a 6 to like an 8 or a 9. Like sometimes you've like it's frustrating in that the first Surge kind of has like there's clearly so much design work and effort put into it to like make this thing, but it like makes this thing that is, I don't know, like 3/4 good, I guess, or like 3/4 fully functional. Like I don't know, and then you kind of have the sequel that just does such minor things that you think would take so much less effort, but it's curated and it's got like a really amazing, I don't know, like designer's eye to it. It's like, what if we did this, but we took the criticisms and we changed this slightly and we like address these problems. Like we've got all the core of the game, but we just have to make sure. Maybe I don't know what they did. Maybe they play tested the fuck out of the sequel or something, or just like as in we're just like, okay, like maybe they were more self-critical. Like they'd make a section and then they'd be like, okay, this isn't fun. Like we need to change it, and then they change it, and then they play it, and then they go, okay, this still isn't quite there. Let's change it. Like I find this a lot with Souls-likes as well, because I think people are like, okay, we want, punishing combat, we want, RPG mechanics, we want different builds, we want this obscure story, we want, bonfires and checkpoints, and they put in all of those things, and they're like, oh, it looks great, it feels great, maybe the combat even feels good, or not always, that kind of thing. But then they're kind of like, oh, and then we need punishing difficulty, so we're just gonna like put fucking loads of enemies in, like whatever. And then like it falls apart because it's like you've done all of this, but then you forget that, or maybe don't even notice that what FromSoft do, not all the time successfully, but most of the time, is they are very deliberate about their encounter design and where they put enemies and why they put them there and what it's supposed to teach you and what it's supposed to test you on. And, those thoughts clearly go into the design of those games. Like they put enemies in places for specific reasons beyond just like, oh, this would be a cool enemy to fight, or oh, this is going to be really difficult. Like they're not thinking about it in that way. And I think people who try to copy them seem to miss that, or maybe they don't miss it, but they find it like really difficult to sort of get that final like ingredient in. And the Surge has that issue. The encounters feel quite repetitive. It feels like Dark Souls 2 is actually ridiculed for this, somewhat fairly, somewhat unfairly, because I think that game does a lot of things right, but it is probably the weakest in the series, where they kind of just throw loads of enemies at you, and they just have like enemies that ambush you and that kind of thing, and they rely on it too much. It's a lot of the weapons feel similar, and it feels like you're not given good options against multiple foes at once. Some of the environments kind of blur together as well. It's all this like industrial aesthetic, which I like, but you're going to like different zones, but they kind of feel a bit interchangeable, which is a shame. And then I was going to say something else, but the bosses aren't great, and you get the sense that they had like a good premise, but they didn't really fully know how to capitalize on it. Unquestionably, like when you play it, perhaps because of the environments and the encounter design and the types of enemy they put in the game, you get this sense that you're like, not that they're not even trying, but that there's no comparison. Like if you compared it to Dark Souls, like I feel like there's not going to be a single person on Earth who's like, oh yeah, the Surge is better. I mean, I'm sure now that I've said that, if someone's determined enough, they'll get back to me on why the Surge is actually better. But it's just so hard to see why anyone could ever think that. And I think that is kind of, I don't know, like even in terms of like the world or like the art direction or the mechanic, like anything, it's so much worse, which is a shame because I feel like it's not as bad as people say as well. And the second one is truly great. So I feel kind of mixed on it. It's definitely mid. And it sucked me in a bit because the difficulty and my love for the second game has like kept me going with it. But I stopped playing it for a bit. It's been kind of hard to come back. I feel like I'm never like passionate about finding new weapons or anything really, or like new armor sets. Like none of it excites me enough. But yeah, do you have any comments on that? I'm not done with games, but
No, do you feel like so in your end result, do you feel like it's kind of mid, or are you like it's more on the upper, like on it's more on the good side, or like
I
how
don't
do you
know.
feel?
I mean, I feel kind of similarly to how I feel about Ghostwire, I guess. Like where it's fine. Like
Yeah, because I was in the same boat with Ghostwire. I thought it was extremely stylish, but it kind of just left a lot more to be desired because it was just the same thing for many hours at the
yeah,
end.
I'm not sure if my like given that I'm finding it so hard to get into games, it makes me wonder if maybe my standards are getting higher. I don't know if that's fair to say, but like in other words, maybe not. Like one way of looking at it could be standards getting higher. Another way of looking at it could be like unrealistic expectations, or maybe even being unfair. Some people might think, but the way I feel about it is that a lot of the time in a game now, I feel like I want to take something away from it with me, and I don't want it to kind of blur together and just be like, okay, this was a cool, well, not even cool, but this was like a Ubisoft experience. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like with Ghostwire and the Surge, it's like, for the Surge, I'm like, just play the Surge 2. Like, don't play the Surge, play, first of all, play every single Soulsborne game, then play the Surge 2, and then don't play the Surge, is kind of how I feel. And maybe it's unfair, because the game's fine. And then with Ghostwire, it's like, there's better open world, like, checklist collectathon games, and Ghostwire is fine. Like, it's a decent one. Like, I think if you play it, I don't think you'll be like upset, but I think if I ever do get all the achievements in Ghostwire and go away from it, I don't think I will remember much from it. I don't think I'll look back on it like very happily, and in contrast, something like The Evil Within, I'll never forget playing Akumu mode, and I'll never forget, the spooky safe man, and I'll never forget that fucking shootout in that house. That's
Oh my god, the
ridiculous.
burning house.
Yeah, with the explosive
Oh my
barrels.
god, I'm never gonna forget that.
Yeah, and there's so many of those moments, right, that I won't forget from The Evil Within. And again, I don't know, maybe it is to some extent unfair to be like, I want lots of things that I can take with me from this experience and think back like fondly, or even with frustration. Like ultimately, I just want the game to make me feel something, and the game doesn't really make me feel much. And that's the same with the Surge. So yeah, by that definition, I think they're both very mid to me.
Yeah.
A game that actually defies this, though, I played Amnesia: The Bunker, and I played it while a friend was around, and I found it really, really difficult. I found it very atmospheric, and I was actually enjoying it quite a lot. I got kind of stuck, and I got stuck to the point where it was like slightly frustrating and also slightly awkward, because it was like, you're with a friend, so you're like, okay, we should like play something else, I guess, and you don't have to watch me die, and then you take the controller, and then you die, and like we don't have to just do the same thing over and over, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd like to go back to it. I actually don't think this game is mid. I think this game's worth playing, like, without a doubt. I think it's a really interesting game. It's quite difficult. I think there's some stuff where the low budget shows, and maybe that kind of breaks your immersion a little. But it's very, very claustrophobic. The audio design is fantastic. You get like all of these some people have been calling it an immersive sim. I think that's way too strong for what it is. I think it's more that you'll get lots of these resources, and how you use them won't be like very clear, which I think is uncommon in modern games. Like I feel like I feel like a lot of high budget, like AAA or quadruple A, like the highest production value games, there's almost like the meme of like you pick up an item and then like a big fucking text box comes up on the screen and it's like, oh, you can use this for this and this and this, and then it like, and then they play like a video on you, like a video comes up on your screen and it like shows like your character like throwing the Molotov cocktail or something. Like you pick up a Molotov and it gives you a text box on like what a Molotov is, like the history of the Molotov, how to use a Molotov, and they'll show you like a video of like a guy throwing the Molotov, and it'll be like, oh, use it against rats, use it against this, use it against enemy, like it'll like tell you everything you use it against, and then it feels like you're never like making a decision, that you don't really have agency, and that's fine, like it works, but then to remove a lot of that and to give you a bunch of stuff and then give you like minimal input on how you should use it, it makes you feel more like you're a survivor, and it amplifies the horror experience because you're like, oh, I've got these resources and maybe this is the right thing to use, maybe it's the wrong thing to use, maybe if I use it now I'll regret it later. And because nothing's scripted, like in terms of, like it will let you like waste resources, like it'll let you like fuck yourself over, and it'll be like, haha, you've fucked it now, like it'll just let you do that it makes everything feel more tense, and like you have to be actually resourceful. Games tend to like to make you feel like you're resourceful, but they're never actually letting you be resourceful. They're just like they're kind of guiding you by the hand more and more. So it's really refreshing in terms of that, and I appreciate that a lot. And it also makes the experience so much more tense. And yeah, it's really good. I wish I played more of it. I should go back to it. It was easily worth my time. I actually felt myself, even playing it with a friend, really, really tense, and one of those horror experiences that I've not had in a long time, where you're like scared to move forward. You know what I mean? Like
oh yeah, I know that.
You have to go down this corridor, and you can like hear the monster down the corridor, and you like, there's only one way to, like, you have to go down the corridor. Like there's maybe like a door on the left, a door on the right, and then like a door, like a second door on the left or something, like, and you can like go there, but you're like somewhere down here that the monster is. It's in one of the doors, or it's like at the end of the hallway or something, and you're just like, I don't want to go down there. I don't want to go down there. And you just like, and it's like physically hard for you to like push the analog stick. And then the sound design you hear, like your footsteps, because you're in like a bunker underground, it just like echoes everywhere, and you're like, oh fuck. I had those feelings while playing, so that to me is a complete success, because I'm finding it hard to get emotionally invested in games at the moment, and also I'm very, very experienced with horror games, and I'm sort of jaded in terms of that, like I've seen, I think we often get this feeling that we've kind of seen it all before at this point, because we've played games for so many years. And, when you're a kid and you play games, everything is so new to you, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they did it. Like everything feels like a new discovery. And then the more games you play, the less frequent that feeling is. So yeah, for it to give me those feelings, I think is an incredible accomplishment. The last thing I've been playing is Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Again, my friend was around, and he'd played it as a child on like PS1, and I hadn't played it. It's okay. I feel like it doesn't really hold up that well. It gets repetitive quickly. You like play it for a bit, and you're like, okay, this is fine, and then you're like, okay, this. Yeah, I felt like it had a lot of charm to it, but I think if I'd played it in my childhood, I'd care about it a lot more than I do. But it's decent. It's okay. There's not much wrong with it. You do pod racing. The tracks are a little boring. The tracks are a little easy as well, I'd say, just in terms of like the terrain and the obstacles. But yeah, decent, fun. Probably like one of the best movie tie-in games as well, I assume. But yeah, so that's been it for me.
Very nice, dude. You had like a lot of cool stuff in there, and stuff that we both played, and you were talking about like being stuck, and I was trying to really think like in terms of horror, where it's like you can't push to go forward, and it's like maybe maybe Shadows of Rose might have been the last time, but before that it was the first Outlast game. Man, just there's like this part where you're like deep in the game, like deep underground, and it's like like a flooded basement almost, and you can hear like a monster like splashing around, and you're like, I don't want to move because he'll hear me splashing around.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it was like so hard to move. Like that was such a scary. I like kind of put it down.
There was so I'll say with Shadows of Rose, there was definitely, the section with the dolls.
Yes.
That was definitely spooky for me, and it did get me like a little for sure. But I would say generally like Shadows of Rose, it was like everything was like fine, like la la la, everything's fine. And then that section, I'm like, ooh, this is like. This fucked me up a little, but then everything else was fine. Whereas with Amnesia, the bunker, I kind of feel like, it's like the doll section, but it's like that's like everything, if that makes sense. Like that's how you feel the whole time, if not a bit even more intensely. And then with Outlast as well, yeah, that section, when you do that game on Insane without reloading camera batteries, you have to do so many sections just like in pitch black. And I remember I did use like a guide, which helped, but you kind of just like have to have, but you can't see shit in the video, and then so you just have to like hope you're just like going the right direction and not just going to run head first into the monster, basically. Yeah, I love those.
There's another horror game that I want to try out. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Madison, and I think that's one that could mess me up too. I guess I'm gonna start back with my first game, and I will. I'll just go through it quickly. But I played Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and I mentioned that earlier. But the thing about it is, like, I really loved what they did with this game. Like over like Fallen Order, they just took everything and improved it. So they like took the criticisms and they were like, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna like just take this game and make it literally 2 times better. Like it is just in scope. There's stances now, so like you can change the way you like hold your lightsaber, like from dual wielding to like a cross guard. Like you can just do the single blade or like the double bladed. Like you just have so many stances, and it's really cool to like switch back and forth, and you have different abilities based on like how you're building the skill trees for each one of those. And I was like, it feels so good to play this game. Like it's very good that it has an awesome narrative, but it's also awesome to have an open world where you don't feel like tired of exploring because you enjoy the combat. You enjoy like just exploring and seeing like what the world has to offer. And there was a lot of really fun, cool boss fights, and I was raging, and it was just such a good time for me, and I was really happy to be back in it. And so like I said, I was just chipping away through it, and it was like nights I would have really good times, and then there would be nights where I was like half in, half out, and so I just had to like put it down, come back at a different time, and eventually I did platinum that, and I think it was 255. Yeah, I think so. And then I did Oxenfree 2, and that was 256, and there's not really much I can say about that game. It's just dialogue choices and like just a lot of character development, and like you just kind of just get to know the characters in this, like horror mystery kind of game. And it has like 3 endings, and it was just a great time. Like I knew what I was getting into because I played the first one, so I knew it was just like very much, it's just horror mystery. And if you like that, just get in there and play it, because it is so cool. Like the lore and like the way that it's presented, it's beautiful. It looks like looks like paintings all over the environment, and it's just like so good. But I really did love that game. And then Final Fantasy 16, I have been playing a boatload. Dude, I probably have like 80 or 90 hours, which is probably why I haven't played very many games, because this game is very long. But I'm on my second playthrough. I'm at the very end, and I know I am. And I have to max out my skill tree and beat it on the hardest difficulty, and that's it for Final Fantasy. But like this game does like, it's very good at staying linear with like semi-open world areas, and they allow you to like go do things. And the combat is so good that you like want to experiment, try different skills, like just do a whole bunch of different stuff. And I'm like, I was never bored with it, and I'm not even bored on my second playthrough. Like it's very impressive for me that they were able to do this with this game, but I still do have problems with it. Like it's the side quests are very well written. Like I really do enjoy them, but on my second playthrough, I have been skipping the dialogue because like all the scenes are so static that it's just an NPC standing there telling you to go get them something, and then you go get them something. And I don't like that, but it's like really well written. So it's like, oh, this character is asking me to do this because, you know, they love someone, but that person's suffering. So that like that person's going to die. And so they want to ease their passing. And it's like, that's like good writing. And like, it kind of makes you feel for like what's going on, but it's just like so static. Everything's so static. There's like no movements, you know, like I wish the thing is like, I was talking about Baldur's Gate, and I've been seeing a little bit of footage, and it's like impressive as hell to me how well and like lively it looks whenever there's an NPC who's talking to you, and there's like good facial animations, and they're moving, they have body language, you know, they might not sit still in the spot and like just arms down to the side. I'm talking to you right now. Like, this is all I'm going to do. And like, I really get more immersed in games when it feels like the NPC like is not just a freaking standing still like NPC. It just is so static, and I just can't do that. And I've mentioned it on this podcast many times before. It's just one of my hangups. And it's just like, so I'm skipping all of them, just trying to get as many skill points as I can and like busting through it. But I'm getting ready. I'm ready for Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty in 4 days. But one of the games that I've been playing quite a bit with a buddy of mine is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And it's so much better than 3 already. Like the writing is better. Well, it's hard to say that because 3 improved. The base game sucked. The writing was terrible. It was not good. But the combat and the like mobility and the guns and all that stuff was fun. It was so bogged down by the writing that it was like hard to play because it was just cringe all the time. But this is basically 3 with improvements. Like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is Borderlands 3 with improvements, and it's like the story is much better, the writing is much better. Like the DLCs in Borderlands 3, the writing got much better, and it became a much better game. But I don't know how many people even played the DLC because they were probably hard out after the main game because it was so poorly written and like so bad. But it's almost like maybe they had a team of writers that wrote the base game, and they were like fired all of them and like had new writers write all of the expansions because the expansions got so much better. And it's just like that continued into Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So I've been laughing at like the jokes, you know, I've been like, I pay attention to the dialogue. I'm picking up the audio recordings because it's like just fun to hear. It's almost like the actors do improv almost, like where they just kind of just shoot the shit with each other. And it's kind of fun to listen to. Sometimes it does get cringe. It's not very funny sometimes. Like it just happens. It's just Borderlands. But, well, not Borderlands anymore. It's spin-off Wonderlands. But I really am enjoying the game. I'm probably going to trophy hunt it because it's just like fun with these games. You know, you just do a story mission, you get a bunch of side quests, you go kill bosses, you get new loot. You kind of just get in that cycle of just kind of doing that. And like, I'm excited to just keep playing it. But I also am going to start. There's another game that my friend wants me to play, and it's kind of the same situation that you were talking about, where I haven't played Remnant of the Ashes, the first one, but I think I'm going to pick up this Remnant 2 game. He said like the co-op is so good, and
Okay.
like
Played the first one.
you
but
did.
couldn't
Did you like
get
it?
super into it.
Okay.
It was good. I felt like the procedural generation of the worlds made it less interesting than it could be. But I haven't played enough of it. I probably only played about 3 hours, maybe. So I
Okay.
need to go back to it.
Okay.
Everything else about it was fine, but it was like, you know, at the start of these types of games where you have like no loot and no gear and no like
Yeah.
weapons, so you kind of like, a lot of these games have this problem where the combat is kind of the least satisfying it will be right at the start, and then it like gets more and more interesting and more satisfying. I wonder if there's like a way to fix that, because it seems like that's a problem to me. I think, I don't know, I guess like deferred enjoyment or like delayed satisfaction can be like a good principle, like sometimes in game design. But I don't know. I felt like the combat was okay, but the environments were letting it down a bit. But it was fun. It was like pretty good. I'd need to play more.
Yeah, my friend is just like, he's been playing Remnant 2 for like a week or two, and he's like, the co-op is just so much fun. He's like, dude, we haven't played a game together in several years. He's like, let's do it with this one, because he's like, I think you'll love it. He just is like so into it, and so I'm like, dude, you know what? Let's freaking do it. I haven't played games with you in so long, and like, it's a great time to just like catch up and shoot the shit and like just have fun with this game. So I don't know if I'm gonna trophy hunt it, but it's one of the, because it's actually being patched a whole lot. I'm in a platinum hunting Discord, and like I talked about it, and I guess if you started the game in co-op, there's like a bunch of trophies that just don't pop, and so you kind of like have splotchy trophy list, and they're like missable. They're missable in the way that like once you've done that action, like beat that boss or whatever, it's done. Like you can't go get it. You can't just go grind it and get it again. But they patched all that stuff, so if there's like no problems with the trophies, maybe I'll go for the platinum. But I'm just like gonna just enjoy this time with my friend, because I'm gonna be so deep in school that it's like I got to just maximize my time for playing these games the way that I need to. I'm definitely gonna go for all the trophies on Phantom Liberty, but it's again, I'm gonna go back. So I'm gonna jump off of Remnant now, because that is something that I plan to play pretty soon. But going back to Callisto Protocol, that's a game that's gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. Like there's just so much to play that's coming up, and it might just be like a back burner game, like something that I put on at nighttime when I don't have anything else to play, like just like immerse myself in it. Because honestly, dude, the environments and like the story and everything looks so damn good in that game, like really freaking pretty. But I just need to like, I like to just sit down and enjoy that story, just absorb it. But I don't know how, the game's boring to me. I don't know. It's not the story that's boring. It's the gameplay, like holding left, hitting, just tapping R2 to like hit things and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes with that game, but it's going to be a back burner game where it's just, I might not, it'll take me months to platinum that, or to even like maybe even beat it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for right now. But
nice.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No. Do you have an achievement of the week? Or?
Oh yeah. Okay. You go first. I got to look mine up.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. So mine is actually to talk about a game for having a terrible list. Thought it'd be fun to do this.
Ooh.
I saw this article on True Achievements today. It's talking about there's this game called Age of Solitaire, Build Civilization. And it has a nightmarish achievement list. So like really bad. Like you'd need to absolutely love building Civilization or Solitaire, presumably, to play this. I actually don't even give a fuck about what this game is, to be honest. I see Solitaire and I don't care anymore. But I'm not a big Solitaire guy. But yeah, it has like one of the like laziest and most difficult lists. So for the 1,000 gamer score, you gotta. We should maybe link the article in the description, because I feel bad that I've kind of just like taken it, I guess. But
I can do that.
Yeah, that'd be good. So yeah, you've got to play 100,000 games. You've got to win 10,000 games in a row.
Oh my
you've
god!
Got to play 10,000 hours.
Bro.
So, yeah, it's just a ridiculous achievement list. Like one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, and it reminds me of like the old 360 games where they'd like Ghost Recon and stuff, where it'd be like, oh, you've got to be number one on the global leaderboard or something. Like just when people didn't even understand achievements and just made like a idiotic list completely. But what's worse than having a ridiculous list is that one of the achievements is completely unobtainable. So not only did they implement a just complete ludicrous insanity list, but when you do some of the requirements, the achievements don't even unlock. So imagine dedicating all that time and all that effort to this game, and then the achievement doesn't even fucking unlock. So there's a guy who has played over 10,000 games, and they haven't got the achievement for that, and they can't get the achievement. So
Jesus
fuck
Christ.
this game. That's my achievement of the week. Great article. Recommend it. We'll link it in the description. It's by Sean Carey, probably Carey.
Carey.
Yeah, just a ridiculous list. I couldn't believe, like, it's kind of two stories in one, because not only is the list so bad, but then you also can't even get one of the achievements, and people haven't done the requirements for the others, so loads of them could be broken potentially. And I can't, like, you would have to, like, God, you must, like, if the game's, like, maybe the game is really good, the game could be really good, and maybe you love, like, what the game's doing. Like, I don't think there's really, like, many, like, it's not like a big market. Like, I feel like it's, if you're into this game, I feel like you'll be really into it. So, you know, if you love it for the game, then I get going for the achievements. But otherwise, this game, it's like, that's crazy to me to go for those achievements and then for them to potentially not even be possible. Yeah, really bad.
Oh, that's terrible. Someone's got to get on that. Like, whose idea was it to make that kind of list? I don't know. I wonder if they got fired. No. But my trophy of the week is it's from Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and I liked this. It was actually from these things that you pick up. The very first one you get, it's pick up a lore scroll. And the name of the trophy is they haven't invented podcasts yet. And I thought that was like really clever and fun, because they've done so many audio logs and like things like that. So it was a pretty fun trophy. And I was like, oh, that's fun for our podcast. So I went and chose that one. But yeah, that's my trophy of the week. And do you have any final thoughts, AJ?
No, it's been really good to be back. I felt bad that it had been so long.
I did too.
Yeah, it's really fun to catch up. I think it kind of, like, we both were very busy, but also we haven't played games too much. So I think it would be a much worse show if we, like, forced an episode and we're like, especially if we did it like weekly at this point. Like,
yeah, dude, we started out that way.
There would be some weeks where I genuinely would have, like, nothing to talk about, like nothing at all. So I think this has been really nice, and I really want to make more when I get time. And yeah, it's awesome to be back and talk about games. And yeah, it's just flown by completely as well. It's been so good.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. Peace out. Happy hunting.
See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to Complete Edition. If you like the content, consider supporting us on patreon.com/completionclub. If you have any questions or would like to reach us, email completionclub@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Complete Edition.